Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on Joy Asonye Live this beautiful evening. My name is Joy Asonye. Today on the program, we're moving to Kaduna, talking about the new administrations in over 28 states, Kaduna in focus. Well, the state, just like 28 others across Nigeria, held their inaugurations in various states, including 10 governors who were re-elected for second terms. However, Kaduna State, for some years now, have been in the news for all the wrong reasons, from almost daily attacks on communities, which has clearly affected this economic hub, to increment in tertiary education, and not to mention the complaint from the Telekawas rather, who were expecting education for all of them, as was promised by the past administration. Kaduna State, a cosmopolitan city with various business activities and a major industrial center in northern Nigeria, manufacturing products like textile, machinery, steel, aluminium, among others, have not been in the media for the right reasons. Well, Senator Uba Sani, the new governor, while being sworn in, declared that his administration will be for all citizens of the state, regardless of ethnicity, religion, and political divide. Will this at last be the Kaduna that everyone is hoping for? To discuss this and appraise the past administration is Deborah Yusuf. She's a convener, Southern Kaduna Dialogue Series. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me, Joy Asonye. It's a pleasure to be on the program.
Yes. At this point, we'll just go for a short break and return to discuss in-depthly. Stay with us. Welcome back. The new administration, Kaduna in focus. Again, I have Deborah Yusuf. She's a convener, Southern Kaduna Dialogue Series with me. First of all, let's talk about the Southern Kaduna Dialogue Series. What is that about?
Okay, so the Southern Kaduna Dialogue Series is a forum where, Southern Kaduna youth and stakeholders come together to discuss the issues that are bedeviling their community, their society, and then proffer solutions on how to better engage the government and, proffer solutions on homegrown solutions to other economic issues that they are facing. So in summary, that's basically what the Southern Kaduna Dialogue is about. So it's a solution-driven conversation that seeks solutions for the issues in our community and also how to better engage the state and federal government on the killings and injustices that has happened in Southern Kaduna.
And that's what I would like to get to, the killings and injustices. What would you say is fueling that? Because for some of us who read the papers every day, it's sad that so many people have to die yearly. I'm unable to even count the numbers because they are not. I read a report where the military had given a statistic, and that was questioned as well. So I'm avoiding the numbers, the statistics. But you tell me, what do you think is constantly fueling this?
Well, first, Kaduna State as a whole has a long history of crises, unrest that are either fueled by ethnicity or religion. So right now, different school of thoughts have different reasons as to why this crisis or this killings has gone on for as long as it has. What I wouldn't want to go back to history. I would like to talk about the recent one, which is basically a terrorist attack on a people. The killings happening in Southern Kaduna is separate from the banditry that happens in Kaduna State entirely. Yeah. The killings that happen in Southern Kaduna often happens at night, where militias or militants come in with sophisticated weapons and burn houses and kill people. When people say it's a farmers heather clash, I'm like, farmers heather clash, isn't it supposed to happen at daytime, maybe where I'm farming and then a cattle eats my crop and then I retaliate? Or is it not supposed to happen from both ends? At least that's what a clash is. But what happens, what seems to be happening, is a calculated attack on a people constantly, because this does not just happen. You must remember that Kaduna State accounts for 10% of the ethnicity and tribes in Nigeria. We have about 60 or over tribes in Kaduna State alone. In the southern Kaduna communities, between 55 to 60 ethnicities, tribes in southern Kaduna alone. And these killings do not happen in one region. Right. It happens all over. It happens in Atiap land, Adara land, you name it. It all over. I think there's just one that has not experienced that all over. So these killings are a group of people, a group of terrorists that, you know, have, I don't know where they're getting the support they're getting, but they are well equipped with sophisticated weapons. Eyewitnesses have come off to say that some of their weapons, our military men do not even, you know, bear such arms. And then they launch this attack and then they go back. Day after time, this has gone on. So I wouldn't like, because over time, you know, we've been censored when we try to say Fulani militia or Fulani militants, which is why I'm not ascribing any tribe, because we have lived, the Fulanis and Hausas are settlers in our land, and for a period of time, you know, our fathers would tell us that they lived peacefully with such people. But I know that since I was born, all I have ever known about my community, my people, is killings, crises here and there. I do not have that memory. My parents and my grandparents have that. Oh, there was a time we're actually, in peace. You know, in peace. I cannot recollect. We are, but you can say that we are children of war, basically. And by that I mean
born in it, and you're still living in it.
Still living in it.
What caught my attention was when you said that they keep coming at intervals. To what end? What do they hope to achieve? Wipe out those communities? What's fueling this?
Of course, that is what we have been, you know, left to believe. Because what happens is that they wipe out when they kill, and then of course people have to relocate to IDP camps because that place is no longer secure. They now take over the lands and begin to settle there. So what we are left to see from their actions, we are not deducing, this is what they have, the steps they have taken, is that these are a people that have a plan to clear out an ethnic group, a society, to take over their lands and to take over, you know, their means of livelihood. So yes, we've several times we've called it genocide, and we've been criticized for calling it a genocide. But if you want to compare it with other genocides that have happened, then you'll see that there is no other word than to use but a genocide, because this is targeted, this is calculated, this has happened over and over again within sustainable periods. I think I used to know, even I said that we're children of war, but we used to know periods of pause where we know that, okay, for now, and Kaduna State has been, or Southern Kaduna has been reasonably, you know, peaceful just for a short period of time or so. But since this past administration, and that's from 2015 till just yesterday, yeah, since now we've not experienced that at least reasonable period of time where we say, okay, all is well, we can pause and breathe. We have not experienced that.
Why do you think that is? Because obviously successive governments have not really curbed these attacks. And I mean, I don't understand it when these attacks keeps happening and interventions. They are Nigerians. They are our fellow. When they refer to Nigerians, they refer to everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's within the ambit of government to ensure that these people get protection. If it has been happening for so long, why do you think successive governments have not been able to really bring an end to it?
I think that the issue, right, is actually multidimensional. When you get to the root cause of it, you find out that to get the kind of sustainable peace that is needed, that we have to have a government that is intentional, that is proactive, and actually, you know, seeking to see this end and treat criminals as criminals, not with kids' glove or going to, you know, offer them cash to stop killing. If you catch a thief, that happened with Nasir El-Rufai, where he even said it himself. I'm not speculating. He said it in an interview in Channels TV some 6 years ago, about how he brought the group together, and then to sort of what's the word pacify them. He paid them to stop the killings. I'm like, oh, is that what we do with terrorists in Nigeria? We pay them to stop killing people, or do we prosecute them, or is that what is meant to be done? So at the end of the day, right, past administrations, there has been, you know, there has been dialogue within the communities, involvement of governments, where they will get to the point where there's supposed to be a white paper and all that, but for whatever reasons, we've not gotten the solution, basically. But the question which I and a lot of people are asking is that why did it intensify so much in this administration? And I'll give you one simple answer. It's because Malum Nasir El-Rufai has been quite insensitive when it comes to these killings, and has actually played a role in inciting violence when it comes to the killings in southern Kaduna. And I'll give you a case. I would
like to hear, because that's a huge allegation on him.
I'll give you a case example. So in 2018, Nasir El-Rufai issued a gazette that divided and restructured the Adara chiefdom. Now the Adara people are an ethnicity within southern Kaduna. So when he did that, that basically meant splitting the chiefdom and then putting the Adara people under an emirate, which is Kajuru Emirate. Now the Adara people are 95% Christians. And why did Nasir El-Rufai feel the need to create or set up an emirate that is popularly dominated by Christians? That's the question we are asking. And he did this without consulting the chiefs in southern Kaduna, the chief of the Ogom Adara. God bless his soul, he's late, and we'll get to that story shortly. As Dr. Galadima Maidawa.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I got the name right. So he did that without consulting all these key stakeholders. So now, how do you take out such actions and you expect people not to speculate, or not to say that you are in bed with the terrorists, or there is a calculated attempt?
But what does it really entail?
What does it really mean?
What does it entail to be part of an emirate, like you just mentioned?
Okay, and when you, I'm sure you don't have an emir in your state.
I do not.
Exactly. Why don't you have an emir in your state? That's the question you should be asking.
I think it's because it's not embedded in our culture and our religion.
Exactly.
Right.
So it is not all embedded in our culture and our religion too. That's for I'm not Adara, just to clarify. I'm from southern Kaduna. I'm Ham, but I'm not Adara. It is not embedded in the Adara people's culture or religion to have such an emirate. So why feel the need to create an emirate, to set up an emirate in Kajuru, where the people there are 95% Christians? At the end of the day, that was what was done. And then when the chief, late Dr. Galadima, found out about it, he went to discuss and try to reverse it, have discussions with the state government as to why was this done. We were not consulted. What's the intention behind this? What's going on? But to no avail, that did not happen. Eventually, Dr. Galadima was kidnapped was kidnapped, and then they sought for ransom. And according to sources and reports, these are reports that are available in simple Google research will just pop up and you see those reports. According to the sources, the kidnappers said that even when you pay, even when this ransom are being paid, we are still going to kill you. You are still going to die, or you're still going to kill you. Of course, I'm paraphrasing here, because there is an order. They have been given an order.
Right.
So yes, ransom.
So that implies that it must have been an assassination.
Yes, an assassination,
and not necessarily a kidnap.
Exactly. So the ransom was paid. I think he got out, and then in 2018, that same year, in October, he accompanied or he was with the governor in is it Kasomagani, yeah, or Kasomaga, I can't remember. Yes, and he was with the governor, and on his way back, because remember that was like campaign period,
right,
in October 2018. So right, and then it was on his way back from that event, and that was when he was brutally murdered and lost his life as a result of that. Now, what transpired after he died? It was only after he died that the local chiefs came to the knowledge of the Gazette, what actually happened, and the setting up of the Emirates and all that. And they sought the attention of former Governor Nasiru El-Rufai and the Kaduna State government, but to no avail. They were not granted any audience, nothing. They were not granted any audience, so they decided to file a suit, and they filed a suit, and a week before, I don't know why I'm laughing, it's maybe some sort of coping mechanism. A week before the hearing of their suits, they were arrested. 9 of the elders were arrested. Now, they were told, according to reports, they were invited to dialogue with some Fulani leaders or elders or whatnot on like sustainable peace, how to peace and live together. And they honored that invitation, and it was on that invitation that they were arrested. I think that happened in February. And before,
what was the basis for the arrest? Because that's what I'm waiting to
ask me. Well, I really don't know what the basis for the arrest was. Okay, now for some context, I think in the month when they were arrested in that year, I think before they were arrested, there was an attack in Adara. And the attack led to the loss of lives of about 13 people, mostly women, children.
Wow.
And then the elderly. And the Kaduna State governor did not issue a statement. He didn't condole with them. He did absolutely nothing. I think about a week later or some days later, we saw a statement, unverified reports, and we saw a statement by the governor accusing, and this is when I say Governor Nasiru El-Rufai has incited violence, this is what I mean. He accused the Adara people of reprisal attacks, is it? Like reprisal attacks, right? Retaliatory, thank you, that's the word, thank you. Retaliatory attack of a Fulani village within them. So he accused them of, attacking and killing Fulanis.
Justifying the other killings?
Yeah, justifying the killings that had happened before. But what I want you to understand that the reports were unverified. And at the time, police had not even launched any investigation. It was unverified, basically. So that was the accusation. Eventually, there's a group, and I can only remember their acronym right now, I think VAITC, that eventually went in and did a an investigation to find out about the attack that Adara people were accused of.
Right. Accused of, yeah.
Yes, accused of. And then discovered that none of that happened.
No Fulani settlement or community was attacked.
Yes, none of that happened. And there were no such casualties as the governor had stipulated.
Or the alleged stipulation.
As alleged. So, at the end of the day, right, when such things happen, and you are seeing some sort of unbalance, what do you if you're an Adara person sitting in the comfort of your home, or rather discomfort of your home, because you don't know when an attack is going, the next attack is going to come, what will you think is going on? What will come to your mind? What will you think? What will you make of the situation, basically? So that was what happened. So when I don't know, and I don't want to speculate because I don't know the reason why those elders, up till days, I can't find a credible or laudable reason that I can say, oh, this is the reason, this is the offense they committed.
Are they still in custody?
No.
They have
that
long
was
been
in 2018.
Right.
I think that arrest happened sometime around February or March, but they were released in June of that year. So, but that was what happened. These are the people that have been seeking your audience to resolve an issue that has happened that is going to undermine the issue of self-governance and political influence in their area because of what you have done. But for whatever reasons, elders from that same community, the Adara Traditional Council, were invited for what they thought was going to be a dialogue between them and the other group, and then they were rounded up and arrested. So,
okay, so this is the precedent, this is the basis as to why we are seeing the sustained attacks recently.
I don't understand.
What I mean is, you were talking earlier about a period where you often would enjoy some peace without the notification
that was
of
long
attack.
before. That
I
was
know
long
what I'm
before
saying
2015, 2018.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I'm saying that with what you have explained so far, it has given us a good picture as to why it might seem like we're having a sustained attack. But
Yes.
have we had, has there been any reprisal or these retaliatory attacks as well from members of the community?
Southern Kaduna community.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So what I'll say to that is, if someone keeps attacking you, you will rise up to defend yourself. So there is the issue of self-defense. When my people are being attacked, they defend themselves as much as they can. But remember the picture I painted to you, where they have sophisticated. So how much can you go with whatever weapons that you have to defend yourself? And thank you for even raising that issue, because this is what actually happens. So when we rise to defend, when our youth rise up to defend themselves, that is when, all of a sudden the military shows up and then round up our youths and arrest them for violence. But they are nowhere to be found.
So let me get something straight. You are within your community. You are protecting your community when there is an attack. So when that happens and it is reported, agencies of government that come to that community arrest members of the community that are protecting themselves.
That was what
in the community, or do they meet this suspects in another community? Because that would be breach. That would be actually might be perceived as causing trouble if you have gone to another community.
Well, I can't speak to that if they get them in another community. But what you need to understand that everything that I am detailing out here happens within Southern Kaduna.
Right.
Now, are there settlements and are there Fulani and Hausa settlers within Southern Kaduna? Of course, there are. So, but that geographic is a Southern Kaduna community. So I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. But as to whether they find them within their community defending themselves, or they find them pursuing those that have meted the attacks on them, I cannot speak to that. But regardless, whether they are pursuing, when someone is trying to take your life, it's proving a threat to you. Would you fold your hands and watch and say, nothing, I'm not going to do anything until I'm all wiped out?
Okay. Now, Kaduna has an elite military agencies, I mean, with intimidating artillery, weapons and infantry personnel, globally recognized. There's so much to, when it comes to security architecture. It seems from where I'm standing, I'm not from Kaduna, it seems like it's airtight. So has there been a proper report that documents all you said for these agencies to come in and help?
Joy, I can only tell you what happens. I can't tell you what, I'm not in the military. I can't tell you what they have done or what they have not done.
Right.
Are there a lot of military bases and camps in Kaduna? Absolutely, there are. But as you know, there's this documentary that was produced by a Southern Kaduna, a journalist, Southern Kaduna journalist, and it's literally, entitled Blood, Anger and Tears.
Right.
Yeah, Blood, Anger and Tears. And in that documentary, you see people giving real life accounts of what has happened. And I'm just going to see one of the accounts that one of these persons have given in that documentary. And what this person says is that when the attacks, like when the terrorists are attacking, the military are nowhere to be found. I don't know if they don't have the intel. And there are also reports that sometimes before the attacks, a day or days before the attacks, because these people don't exist, the military or the military men and officers do not exist in isolation. They still, they are people's family members, they are people's, so they get, some community members get intel by some military officers. This is as personal accounts that, oh, they are going to attack you guys in a day or in 2 days to time, and it still happens. So how do they have that intel and they cannot ensure that they use it to stop those attacks from happening? But what happens is that when the attack is ongoing, they do not come. Only after the attacks is done, then they come. And sometimes, I don't want to sound like I'm not giving credit where credit is due, and sometimes they do pursue these terrorists to their camps and bases, and of course attack back. That's the military men. But in more than we can count, basically, is the ones where we have them not showing up. But of course, there are times where they come in and they go in and they launch the attack on the people. But when you are now looking at they're trying to compare number of times that has happened, a number of times we have been attacked with none of such happening, then that's where you see.
You talk about intel is quite interesting, because Malam Nasir El-Rufai was very vocal as to talking about how helpless he was. And then there's now the Senator Ubasani, who is taking the mantle. We are going for a short break. When we return, we'll talk about the hope, if there is any, for Kaduna. We'll be right back after this break. This is still Joy Asony Live. We've been discussing Kaduna State and the hope with this new administration. Well, Deborah Yusuf, my guest, who is a convener, Southern Kaduna Dialogue Series, has given us a good background as to why we've been hearing all the killings, especially in the southern part of Kaduna. And now we're taking the conversation to the hope, if there is any, for this new administration. And there's still so much to discuss. Those sectors within Kaduna State that must be revamped to see sustained development. Deborah Yusuf, thank you for still being with us here on on Joy Asony Live. Well, let's talk about the new administration. Is there any hope? Are you seeing a body language? I mean, I read through Senator Ubasani's speech, inauguration speech, when he was being sworn in, and he sort of incited hope. I mean, talking about how his administration was for everyone, and he will put a stop to what he says is a settler-indigene dichotomy. That was quite interesting. So I would like you to, I'm not sure why I'm having hope for Kaduna State. You are in Kaduna State, from Kaduna State, and really understand what goes on there. Do you have that hope?
I think hope keeps us alive. It's hope that makes us, wake up the next morning that, okay, today things are maybe better. So I wouldn't want to throw hope out of the window. But however, before we go into Asony, I just want to quickly speak to what the last days of El-Rufai and the actions El-Rufai took. Now, I think 2 days, I think about Friday or Thursday before the inauguration, El-Rufai proscribed a Southern Kaduna group.
I think Atiap community.
Exactly, the Atiap community development.
I think I saw that.
He proscribed them as an unlawful society. Without, I think, I don't know if you saw the statement, but for a lot of people that when I posted it, and then people were saying, I was like, but what did they do? I said, as you read the statement, I'm also looking for what they did. There was no clear, describing people as an unlawful society. There must be a reason.
Right.
There isn't a clear reason why El-Rufai felt the need that this was
I even went further. I tried to read about the group, the association, over time and their activities.
In April, there was another attack in the Atiap land, yet again, and they had to, go embark on mass burials and all of that as a result of that. And of course, the Atiap Community Development came up to say that they can no longer tolerate these incessant killings that are going on in their land, and they will be defending themselves from now, which is what I have already alluded to that is being done, but not in a large scale, because like I said,
they do not have the weapons.
They do not have the weapons. So when I try to wrap my head, sometimes you try to give people the benefit of doubt. You're trying to look for the reasons why they take certain decisions. So I was saying, okay, is it because these people say they were going to be defending themselves? What is the reason as to this, as prescribing those people an unlawful society? All of a sudden, you didn't invite them in to discuss the issues and the peculiarities and what they are facing there. No, you just woke up one day and arbitrarily just declare them an unlawful society. That's an issue, and not to even mention the last minute demolitions that he did that has made people lose their homes. Even churches were demolished, and that's not to say mosques were not also demolished. Mosques were demolished in other parts too. So but at the end of the day, I'm saying that this is an eve to your departure. A new government is going to come in. Whatever essence it was that you destroyed those or demolished those buildings, why not wait? And of course, there's always handing over documents and reports, and then allow that administration to decide if they want to go that route, and if they are going to, as a result, because most of the times when places, houses, institutions are being demolished, or shops and business places are being demolished before they want to improve, they want to maybe make roads or something. What is the guarantee that 4 years later, roads will not be on those parts that you have destroyed? Why did El-Rufai feel that pressure to, on the eve to his departure, to destroy people's houses, people's businesses, and also proscribe a community as unlawful without tangible reasons? That's the question. I guess we can move on to.
I have more questions. I mean, speaking about these incessant attacks, I remember he came up to say he is overwhelmed, he is defenseless, and did not know where else to turn. You had mentioned intel, where he said, we know where these people are, and it's just the political will, lack of political will from the national. A couple of hours ago, before we came on air here, I also read where he said the the past president, President Muhammad Buhari, failed Nigeria in securing Nigeria because he had warned the president, but he just saw efforts towards the end of that. Would you give him the benefit of doubt with all of this that he keeps saying, that we know where these people are, we are just overwhelmed because we do not, like all governors often say, we do not control the security architecture, it's federal?
Well, you know, perhaps because I'm a very generous individual, I don't know if you've noticed.
I do have not noticed. Deborah, I've always known you to say it as it is.
Well, perhaps, you know, I may have, you know, given El-Rufai the benefit of doubt if the whole thing that transpired within the Adara chiefdom did not transpire. I'll say, let's just assume, let's give him that benefit of that. But that's rises my suspicion 100%. So there's no benefit of doubt for Nasiru El-Rufai here. He doesn't, that statement, because he's a very funny fellow, that statement,
I've not had a personal, so
well, I've not had a personal interaction with him either, but he's my governor. He was my governor,
right.
And of course we see him when he goes on interviews and how he tries to cunningly absolve himself from any responsibility. I would say that statement he made was just to absolve himself, that, oh, it's not me, oh, these issues. It is Buhari that failed. I did not
because
fail.
he accused the past president just a couple of hours before the
program.
I
saw that. So I would say that was just a tactic on his part to just absolve himself from every responsibility. But with what I have detailed to you that has happened, and to further, you know, even give you more receipts as we say it now, El-Rufai during his administration has cramped down on voices, journalists that have been arrested because they publicly, you know, talk about this issue. Something is happening in your community, and you say I should not talk. I'm a journalist. An independent journalist, Stephen Kefas, was detained by El-Rufai for several months. Former chairman of the National Human Rights Council, Chidi Odikalu, was detained by the same El-Rufai. So what is El-Rufai saying that he tried his what? I'm trying to make sense of that. That is bladderdash. That same El-Rufai, as we speak, nobody knows where. Okay, well, I wouldn't say it's him, because the situation right now is that Yatta, we don't know who took him. We just know that, okay, according to the reports and sources, that, oh, he was taking, a group of men in black came and took him. Until date, for how many years now? Till date, nobody knows where that Yatta is. But yes, of course, Stephen Kefas has longer been out of there, and Chidi Odikalu. But this is someone that has abused his powers and tried to suppress the voices that were speaking up to these issues. So what are we talking about here?
Okay, there's a new administration. Like I was trying to say earlier, Senator Uba Sani has emerged governor, and in fact sworn in as governor. Is there any level of hope, considering where he comes from in Kaduna State? Would that and what would you expect if you have to set a security agenda or a reconciliatory agenda for unity and cohesion of indigents in the state? What would it be? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
First, I'd like to congratulate the governor, Uba Sani, and I wish him all the best in this administration. Like I always say, his success is our success. He's not going to take that legacy alone. We are going to reap the benefits. As for El-Rufai, he has his own legacy cut out for him, which is an administration that brought gloom and darkness to the state. But Uba Sani has a fresh page and an opportunity to make a difference in Kaduna State. So, well, I would say there is hope, but you know, like I always say, and I would have wanted the Uba Sani to enter this administration in a balanced manner, which is what we are not seeing right now. Because, of course, you must remember that the Kaduna State is not an 80-20%, and that's when I say in terms of religious diversity. It's not a situation. It's a situation of mostly either 60-40 or 50-50 percentage of Christians to Muslims. Right. So, but we have an administration that is a Muslim, that is, his deputy is also Muslim. But nevertheless, we are hopeful that Obasani will take a different leaf, open a new chapter for Kaduna State and Southern Kaduna people at large. I am hoping that, first of all, in his appointments, and that we see a balance. We see a balance in the appointment that take into cognizance the religious and the cultural and ethnic diversity of Kaduna State. Right. Let it be reflected in his appointment. That's number one. Number two, and that's the most crucial thing for me, I want to see the governor of Obasani act proactively towards the reversal of the balkanizations of those chiefdoms that I earlier talked about. Yes. That is the only way you can convince a people that have suffered 8 long years of, killings, incessant killings, that you are well intentioned. So if Governor Obasani starts his administration like that, I can guarantee you that the Southern Kaduna people will have that renewed hope that the APC has been feeling.
That's the name of his own speech as well, renewed hope.
So if he starts off on in that direction, to first of all take a U-turn when it comes to that, especially the Adara chiefdom, and then because this has happened in other chiefdoms too. If he does that, trust me, the Southern Kaduna people will begin to, he will gain their support. And so that's the second thing I would want to see. The third thing I want to see like a new security architecture developed for Kaduna State. Like when I say, the issue of insecurity in Nigeria at large is multidimensional. It is not just a one-size-fits-all kind of insecurity. When you go to the east, it's a different kind of insecurity with peculiarities and intricacies and nuances. When you come to Kaduna, even within Kaduna State too, it is own insecurity issue that is diverse, that is not, like I said earlier, the banditry happening is different from the terrorism going on in Southern Kaduna community. So these are the issues. We want to see a plan that speaks to those peculiarities on what you face and how you collaborate, with the federal government to ensure that this plan is being, developed and implemented. And of course, like I always say, whenever we try to address insecurity in this country, we always look at it from just military and all that. Well, I would say that has not always been the case in Southern Kaduna, because there have always been reconciliatory committees, dialogues that have been set for people to sit and try to live together and find a solution to the problem. That is another angle of it. But you must call a terrorist by his name, by its name, which is what they are, terrorists. And then those people that are now burning the brunt of the situation because of these terrorist activities, try to harmonize those and unite those people. That is what I am seeking. That is what I wish to see in Kaduna State. And I would also want to see that before places are earmarked for demolitions, that way before, when we talk about demolitions, it's always, I can't get my head around it, because these people, before they build, there's what we call Kasuda in Kaduna State, right, which is the what they call it, they're responsible for like the buildings, mapping out and all that,
town planning.
Thank you. That's what they are responsible for. So I do not understand how people build houses. They'll tell you that this houses that people have built, or the businesses where people build their businesses are not areas where they should have built. I'm like, these people go to your office, do some documentation and all of that before building is being done on most occasions. But it happens in it's like they are not aware, but they in turn now come and then start marking certain buildings as marked for demolition. And what are you now? Is there no sort of compensation before this person's houses are being demolished?
Restitution for building. First of all, there's the argument you built in the wrong location.
Yes, but before you built in that wrong location, because honestly, sometimes you don't even know that you are building in the wrong location. So there's the argument that your houses encroach into spaces, and then when the demolition comes, maybe it just takes part of your fence and doesn't affect the entire house and all of that. And or maybe does not affect houses that are behind.
And these people you believe got permission from this Kaduna state?
I want to believe every right-thinking Nigeria will get a permission before we will go through the regular or the normal processes before starting to. But regardless, what the point I am trying to make is that things should be done properly. If things are done properly, and then I know that we Nigerians generally can be mischievous, even when you know that you're not supposed to do something here, you still go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
And then when it now comes to start screaming foul. But what I am saying is that they should fix it within their systems. That does not give the ordinary Nigerian the excuse to come and say, oh no, I did not know that this place was or it's meant for pipelines are supposed to go through this place, or it's an industrial area or whatever,
or waterway.
Waterway. Do you understand? Then you take that excuse away from them. So that is, I want to see things done properly. Basically, I think that's what I'm trying to say. When it comes to the Sani's administration, I want to see sincerity of purpose and vision. I want to see sincerity of heart. I don't want to see a governor that towards the direction of trying to incite violence and mischievously abuses his power for whatever reasons best known to him. And I'm hopeful that Sani, like I say, it's hope that keeps us alive. So we have to hope against hope.
He's from the Kaduna Central part of the state. Would that help in any way?
Perhaps it will help him be more balanced, because El-Rufai was a Fulani Muslim, and then he is from the central part, and I think he's also a Fulani. But perhaps, I don't know. I don't like making preempting people's actions or preempting people's the area they are going to make based on their religion or ethnicity, or except you give me the reasons to, which El-Rufai has given me sufficient reasons to. But if you haven't, and Ubasani is starting on a fresh page, I want to give him that. I don't want to taint his fresh page.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to leave it as clear as it is for him to write the story, and then we will read it out for him and remember him for whatever legacy he brings behind.
The Nasir El-Rufai's administration was, in lack of words to use, a real thorn in your flesh. I remember how you used to get all so worked up with the policies, and it seemed like not much was coming out of him that you applauded. However, my question would be, you have alluded here that the southern Kaduna people who have been killed for so long are the victims. But you also said that you would like to see Sani reverse the balkanization and get a better relationship with stakeholders, traditional rulers within the southern Kaduna. However, pacifying the southern Kaduna people does not cordon them from attacks. So what would you see in terms of reconciliation with the attackers? You call them terrorists, basically. What you call terrorists with these people. What would you like to see in terms of forging that reconciliation? We want to see the end of this crisis.
Like I said earlier, what I would want to see is a sincerity of purpose in the dealings when it comes to we don't want to see a repeat of the situation where our elders are being called for a reconciliation and then they are being arrested while the other party are allowed to go home freely. We don't want to see a repeat of that. So I beg your pardon. When we want to see sincerity of purpose, because these dialogues, this reconciliation process are already ongoing, even amongst the people amongst themselves. They don't exist in isolation. Do you understand?
Of course.
So we want to see the this Sani-led administration to be able to leverage on that and then have a balanced outlook and view to implement. Perhaps we could even go back to history to look at some of the recommendations that have been made, because there have been several, you know, committees that have been set up, and then they've got come up with a document that has not been, you know, implemented. So perhaps what we need is to revisit some of those and then probably fine-tune it to what is now still happening, and then begin the implementation. That is what we need to see. But even in the president of the Atiap Community Development was saying in his speech several weeks ago, when he was talking about the recent killings, he said that we want to live in peace with the Hausas, with the Fulanis that are in our community. We have Yorubas, we have Igbos that are in our community. As far back as the days of railway that were passing through Kafanjan, we had those people. We lived in peace. Nothing ever happened. Why is it that this particular group of people have become a thorn in our flesh? We are not the kind of, we are not the people to say, to want to say, okay, get out of our land because you are not. No.
Okay, let's just live.
Let's just live together. Live and let's live. Right. That's what we want. I want to see policies that are being put in place that are well intentioned, that takes into cognizance what both parties, and not excluding one or not favoring the other against the other. And we want to, one of the things I used to say is that, you know, there cannot be peace without justice. There cannot be peace without justice. If people that have, you know, perpetrated these crimes are not being arrested and prosecuted, then how do you come and tell people that, oh, you want to reconcile them when some of these persons are still aggrieved? We've had the situation whereby the military will say repentant terrorists, and I remember years ago, and there were some that after they were quote unquote rehabilitated and then released back to the community, they went back and they still launched an attack. Well, so
that's another kettle of fish. But Deborah, we're really running out of time. I would like you to tell me, is the Southern Kaduna Dialogue series going to, you know, communicate this to the new administration so that, you know, that you have an agenda, you have steps he can take to proffer peace in the communities?
Absolutely. The Southern Kaduna Dialogue series is working towards, you know, sort of harmonizing all our suggestions, our demands, and as we're going around gathering that from all the communities and all the associations in Southern Kaduna to have like a consensus and a communique that documents what we want in Southern Kaduna community, and then we're going to take it to the state government.
Deborah Yusuf, Convener, Southern Kaduna Dialogue series. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we've been discussing the new administration, Kaduna in Focus, and it's been explosive. So I'm happy if you had been part of the program. We'll be back tomorrow with more, but this is where we'll draw the curtains on Joy Asony Live. Have a wonderful evening.